Namaskar, hello, and once again a very warm welcome to CIET NCERT's live phone in interactive program. My name is Tanvi Khurana, and in this psychology class, we are going to discuss a topic for all the 12th class students. And the topic is nature, formation, and types of groups. So, what are these types of groups that we are about to discuss? What is this chapter all about? How are we going to discuss nature, formation, and of course, the groups? If you have any questions, any queries, please reach out to us. Give us a call on our number, which is 8800440559. And if you're watching us on PMeVIDYA channel number 12 and also on our YouTube channel, that is ncertofficial, उसके live chat box में आप अपने सवाल लिख कर हम तक पहुंचा सकते हैं. We have a guest in our studio and she's going to stay here till 4 o'clock. तो आपके पास 1 घंटा है अपने सवाल हम तक पहुंचाने का. बहुत सारी बातचीत है जो हम अपनी मेहमान से करना चाहते हैं और बहुत सारा वक्त भी है हमारे पास. तो चलिए आपका परिचय हमारी मैम से करवाते हैं. हमारे साथ हैं डॉक्टर शालिनी प्रसाद. वेलकम मैम.
थैंक यू सो मच तन्वी.
Ma'am is from DPS वसंत कुंज न्यू दिल्ली एंड जस्ट लाइक आई सेड कि अगर आपके पास कोई भी सवाल है तो जल्दी से हम तक पहुंचाइए. अगर आप हमें ईमेल करना चाहें तो ईमेल आईडी होगा dth.class12@ciet.nic.in. तो चलिए इस डिस्कशन को बिगिन करते हैं और सबसे पहले हम मैम से पूछना चाहेंगे. मैम, ये जो चैप्टर है जिसका टाइटल है नेचर, फॉर्मेशन एंड टाइप्स ऑफ ग्रुप्स, सो व्हाट आर वी गोइंग टू डिस्कस इन डिटेल रिगार्डिंग दिस चैप्टर इन दिस प्रोग्राम?
ओके, सो तन्वी, एज वी सेड कि ये जो चैप्टर है हमारा क्लास 12th का टेक्स्ट बुक का चैप्टर नंबर 7 है. और आपने कहा कि हमारे पास बहुत सारा टाइम है, लेकिन ये चैप्टर इतना इंटरेस्टिंग है कि आपको लगेगा कि अरे इतनी जल्दी हमारा टाइम खत्म हो गया. सो दिस चैप्टर इज सो रेलेवेंट, एप्लीकेबल, बिकॉज हर इंसान जो इस चैप्टर को पढ़ रहा होता है, चाहे वो साइकोलॉजिकल बैकग्राउंड का हो या ना हो, वो इतना रिलेट कर पाता है इससे. इसके इतने अच्छे और ब्यूटीफुल एग्जाम्पल्स हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, लेट्स स्टार्ट. यू एंड मी, वी आर सिटिंग हियर फॉर अ पर्पस, राइट? सो वी हैव फॉर्म्ड अ ग्रुप.
2 people can form a group?
Yes, minimum 2 people, many more can form a group because they are meeting it for a purpose.
Okay.
They have a joint interaction. Their actions are at times interdependent, right? So whatever I do, obviously your action, because we are part of the group, we have some joint effort to compile that work, to finish that task. That's the reason we had actually met. So हमारा अब दोनों का पर्पस क्या है कि हमारा ये सेशन बहुत इंफॉर्मेटिव हो, इंटरैक्टिव हो, एंड देन बोथ ऑफ अस विल हैव द इक्वल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी टू मेक दिस सेशन अ वंडरफुल सेशन.
Absolutely.
So as we said, what exactly is a group? So in this chapter we will be covering lots and lots of things, like why do I join a group? What is the need behind joining a group? Can I stay alone? Can't I stay alone? Because आजकल की जनरेशन के करीब बच्चे कहते हैं leave me alone, I just want to be by myself. But as psychologists we have really understood one fact that we are, जो हम एक बहुत टाइम से एक मैक्सिम सुनते आ रहे हैं, man is a social animal. So we are social animals because we really want to be with somebody. We can't stay alone. So that's itself relates and make this chapter so relevant for us. So we will try understanding what is a group. Is group different from a mob, crowd, audience, team? So हमारे ये जो concepts हम interchangeably कभी कभी as a commoner use कर लेते हैं. Group and team तो एक ही होता होगा. No. But we have lots and lots of distinctions in these words when we are trying to understand the group as a structure. Now, how do I form a group? Do we have some individual need that is helping me or that's motivating me to make a group? Or there is some pressure because of which I am forming the group? So we have lots and lots of reasons being identified that has actually making me join that group, right? Then we will try understanding that what kinds and different kinds of group do I have. Because I am part of a certain family, because I am born in a family, hence there is no choice, I am a part of my primary group, which is already pre-existing. But at times I choose to become a certain member of a particular group, that becomes my secondary group. So we will try to understand these kinds of differences. At times people do ask that, okay, do we have some stages? How do I come to know that, okay, what kind of a stage formation? How do I proceed further? How the relevance of the groups come into the picture? We will also try to understand when we talk about the group, do we have certain roles to perform? As we said that whenever there is a group formation, we all have some designated roles. Sometimes is being bestowed on you, sometimes because you're part of that group, hence it becomes a system to you. Then do we have some kind of a structuring? There's a beautiful concept associated with this chapter is called group cohesiveness. So we will try to understand this word also. Let's start. What is a group? So let's check out some key essential elements, because we are talking about class 12th and that's a board class, and when we talk about the board class, certain key words turns out to be very relevant to understand the key liners and the key words for these kinds of groups. So now let's define it very categorically. A group may be defined as an organized system of two or more individuals who are interacting, interdependent, who have common motives, have set of role relationships among its members, have norms that regulate the behavior of members. So let's check it out. As we rightly said, two or more. The minimum number for a group formation needs to be 2 members. Next, when we talk about interacting, obviously whenever there is a group which comes into a system, we need to interact on certain common agendas or the ideas so that a purpose is being achieved. Interdependent, when we talk about interdependent, obviously when we are part of a group, one's action is obviously making the other people part of that group, because we are all part of the group. My action is definitely influencing the other. Let's take a beautiful example. We all play matches, right? When we talk about the team, so categorically we'll understand the teamwork also, that how slowly and gradually the group work turns out to be as a teamwork, and that can really make a difference to us. So my action, if I drop a catch, obviously it is going to influence the entire team, right? Let's talk about the set of role relationships. Now what are my roles? Everybody in that particular group, we all have some kind of a designated roles. We are aware that as a part of a group, what I'm supposed to function, how do I supposed to function, what roles I am assigned with. That gives me a clarity to work in that particular system as such. Now I have the norms. Norms hote kya hai? Let's be very clear on the norms. Norms are the stated, unstated, spoken or the unspoken expectations of that particular system, right? So when we are talking about the spoken or unspoken or the stated, sometimes it's very clear, crystal clear that these are the certain things one need to follow and we abide by that. Sometimes, let's take an example of a family. There are certain things which is black and white. ये आपको करना है, ये आपको बिल्कुल नहीं करना है. But as you grow in the family, there are certain things which are never told to you, but you understand that these are the certain things, as being a daughter, being a daughter-in-law, being a father-in-law, being a son, being a helper. We all have some kind of expected roles to follow, and that becomes a nomenclature and that becomes a norm of that particular family, right? Obviously, why do I follow the norms? Because it gives us clarity. It helps us to understand the whole group structure. It also helps us to regulate our behavior, right? So, Tanvi, hopefully I'm able to make myself very clear that how do I clearly defining the group, because once lot of effort goes to define a particular concept.
Yes.
If we are able to understand the concept, define it categorically, most of the things become clear there and there itself, right? So, if we are able to define the group, all the key elements, the characteristics fall in place, right? Let's proceed further. Now, what are the salient characteristics or the salient features of this group? When I say a social unit consisting of 2 or more individuals, that was very much there in the definition itself. We all perceive themselves as belonging to the group. One of the key most and the most important feature of this group is that the moment I join a group, I say my group, right? And the moment I say my group, I start living with those groups. I start aspiring for the betterment of that group. That becomes my group, right? Obviously, when I'm a part of a particular group, it gives me a very, very unique identity. The moment I say, oh, I'm the member of so-and-so group, I'm the member of so-and-so school, I'm the member of so-and-so college, I'm the member of such or such council, it gives me a sense of pride, it gives me a sense of belongingness, it gives me a sense of doing my responsibilities towards that. So it gives me an identity besides my individual identity, my personal identity, as the term we had actually made ourselves very, very clear in chapter 2 of your class 12th textbook also, where we did talk about the personal identity and the social identity. So the moment I relate myself that I am so and so, I am from this religion, I am from this community, I am from this state, I am from this country, I am from this particular group, it gives me a sense of attachment with that particular group. So that's very, very important because when we'll start talking about the purpose behind joining the group, my identity would turn out to be as one of the key feature because of which I have actually joined the group. Now, when we look for the goals, sometimes I am the part of a particular group for my own personal goals because I'm not able to achieve things what I can do it individually. Hence, I try to join a group which is helping me to achieve my personal goals. And that can really only happen with the joint association, because initially when we were part of a group, we had actually common in something. That was the major reason that we had actually formed the group. So obviously it makes us very clear on the point that more or less people are alike in their thought process, in their kind of actions and association and belongingness. Hence, that's the reason they're part of that particular group, right? So their interactions is obviously at times helping us to influence each other directly, and at times the indirect influencing. Interactions are very, very structured at times. As I said, there are certain rules to be followed, there are certain norms to be followed. When we form a group, which is a very formal group, for example, if we talk about the bar councils or the medical councils or the rehabilitation council, or for that matter, some matches for that matter, we all have stated rules, what the members are supposed to do, what they are not ought to do. Why do we do so? Because it gives us a clarity, there is no hustle bustle, there is no overlapping of the roles, there is no overlapping of the functions at times. So we are very, very crystal clear when we are talking about the rules of that particular group, and people are much, much more aware that what they are supposed to do, how they are supposed to do, and there is no conflict of their opinion, there is no conflict of their interest at times. So let's move further. Tanvi, you have come across many times the concepts like mobs,
yes,
audience,
yes,
crowd, and a team.
Absolutely.
If you see this beautiful slide, you can just make out what is happening in this picture.
Yeah.
Mob behavior. Let's first talk about the mobs. Mobs are something which is scary at times because they have the sense of a purpose, but it's in the wrong ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of them, the news we hear, they are in a violent, a phase, and we hear the stories that a mob lynching.
Yes. Yes.
Like that.
Yes. So if I am there watching a certain match, right? Very quietly, patiently enjoying the match, and immediately I see that something is not very good happening and people just become very violent.
Yeah.
From passive, they become very aggressive. They become impulsive. We use the word impulsivity where I don't use my mind at all. We just do what others are doing it. There's no rational mind behind that impulsive behavior. So, kehenge maro. So, everybody starts maroing the people without realizing what could be the repercussions. So,
Right.
people don't think about that repercussion. So, there is definitely another key term. As we said, we are doing textbook as well. So, we have to be very, very focusing even in the key terms what we use there, right? Just to make a bifurcations. So, when I use the word impulsive behavior, polarization. Now, poles are something which has two ends, right? It has to be two poles, has to be like the two ends meet there. So, when there is a polarization in the mob behavior, it turns out to be extreme. People without a thought process, without a rational thinking, in impulsivity, turns out to be as very aggressive, and that becomes the mob behavior. So, mob behavior is never a thoughtful behavior, it's never a rational behavior, and silent, passive audience, when turn out to be as so irrational, they are basically called as mobs, right?
Right.
Let's take another concept of crowd.
Okay.
As we said, when we meet with each other, we are definitely collecting, interchanging our thoughts, we have a purpose. But in a crowd, what happens? A collection of people who have assembled for a special purpose, maybe to watch a cricket match or a movie, that becomes an audience. The moment this collection of people, by chance they collect it, so they are neither very, very structured, they don't have the feeling of belongingness. Remember, Tanvi, when we talked about group, we focus that there is a sense of responsibility and there is a sense of belongingness to the group, because I feel it's my group.
Right.
So, I leave aside my sense of priorities and I start working towards the group goals. So, when I talk about the crowd is always like by chance. So, there is no structuring of the thought process, there is no feeling of belongingness. Behavior of these people, they are basically in crowds is irrational, there is no interdependence among the members. Okay. Very, very thin line of difference, because as commoners, we know, हाँ पता तो है, but what is that exact difference and what is that thin line that makes one thing different to the another? बहुत सारे बच्चे जब हम ये एक्सरसाइज कर रहे होते हैं तन्वी क्लास में, तो टीम के बारे में बताएं, हाँ मैम टीम पता तो है, बट टीम में होता क्या है ये हमें नहीं मालूम है. हम ग्रुप को और टीम को बहुत कोरिलेट कर पाते हैं या बहुत रिलेट कर पाते हैं या हम ओवरलैप कर देते हैं.
Right.
So there is definitely a very, very strong difference between a group and a team. Now, when members of the teams often have complementary skills, they are committed to the common goal. People who are the part of the team, they are mutually accountable. In generally groups, the leaders are considered to be as responsible for the actions, right? But when we talk about the team, it's always one person drops the catch, or the fielding is not happening great, or maybe the hitting is not okay. Each one of them, they feel that yes, it's not because of me. So there's a very, very strong sense of accountability that goes with the team, and that gives them the synergy. So my dear children and my audience, understand the concept of synergy. It's very, very beautiful term. You must have all seen birds flying in V fashion. Yeah?
Yeah.
Have you ever inquired and tried reading why do they do so? It's all, I mean, if we see that has a beautiful aerodynamics feature on the basis of which we have learned from birds to make our planes. Yeah, and there's a lot of study that goes with a social psychologist, that it's all because the wonderful teamwork they do. So when they are flying, the front, the most, the bird which is flying in the front row, they tend to take the maximum air pressure. Yeah, so obviously they tend to get tired very soon.
Right.
Slowly and gradually what happens, they keep on changing. So if the first bird is flying like this, my right wing the bird on my V fashion is assisting the second bird, taking the pressure to the second bird. Lessening the pressure to the second bird. So slowly and gradually that V fashion of aerodynamics gives the maximum sense of synergy. They work in such a collaborative way, and even to such an extent that it has been observed by some of the social psychologists and environmental psychologists that when sometimes these birds they fall sick, some of the birds fall sick, and they have to migrate to the long distances. It's not only that bird that comes down to take a rest. 2-3 birds in common, they come down and the rest they all flow. So when this bird wanted a rest, once they are okay, they again make a V fashion, fly it to the maximum teamwork. So that's a perfect example of the teamwork and the synergy.
Okay. Ma'am, you explained us the concept of crowd and mob.
Yes.
And you said there's a very thin line between these two.
Yeah.
So can we say the crowd, when the audience gets collected, that becomes crowd. So the nature of crowd is as violent as a mob, or is it any different?
It is different because see, we have all come across what happens on the roadside when somebody meets with an accident.
Yeah.
So, when they are there in that particular place, what happens, they are at that point of time, they are the crowd. Because they are just collected by chance, because somebody was passing by, somebody was already there, all that fun does, they are all there by chance, so they are crowd. Now, because of X, Y, Z reason, that accident had been or had taken place because of the negligence of X person, and eventually this person is being caught. Rather than helping a person who has met with an accident, everybody just rushes through and start beating the person who has done the negligible behavior, or maybe the behavior which is indicating or leading to the accident. At that point of time, they have actually converted from that crowd to the mob behavior. As we said, the mob is always irrational. Mob has to be impulsive. The thought process just goes away. So, as we said, if we are collecting here for a purpose, collaborating, interdependent, everything, that at that point of time we are group, right? If the same thing without any kind of a purpose happens, it becomes a crowd. It becomes too extreme, then it becomes a mob behavior. Audience was very quietly and passively, that's what we use it for, the people watching matches and debate stuff and all those stuff, that becomes a audience. Yeah. So, team is very important for any nation to progress, any organization to progress. So, आपने देखा होगा कि हम जब organizations की success की बात करते हैं, और एक अच्छा टीम लीडर वही होता है, वो हमेशा ये कहेगा, आपने सुना होगा कि whenever they are able to win the match, a good team leader would always say, it's not me, it's a teamwork. हमेशा उसका क्रेडिट वो सबको देता है. अगर हम बाई चांस हार जाते हैं, तब भी वो ये नहीं कहता एक्स ने खराब खेला, बी ने बहुत ड्रॉप किए कैचेस को, वो ये कहता है we missed out as a team somewhere. So that's the beauty of the team. So if we really want to make a good progress, be great success in whatever we are doing, whether we are working for any company, whether we are working as a school, whether we are working as any games and matches, every time we need to take care of a word called as team, because the teamwork that can really make a difference to our great success. Now, we have actually just enjoy this picture. You can see the hierarchy that goes. When we talk about groups, performance is dependent on the contribution of individual members, obviously, whereas in the team, it's a teamwork. As I just said, the teamwork that matters. The leader, this hierarchy, if you see this hierarchy, it really speaks everything about this. So here you can see the leader here, he's bifurcating, heading the group, giving the responsibilities, you do this, you do this, you do this. Whereas in the team, everyone is in the circle, part of it. Whether good, whether bad, each one takes the accountability of the action. That's very, very important. Now let's start talking about each one of them in detail. I generally make these people, my students, understand with GPS. If you share this acronym, it says G stands for goal achievement, P stands for providing knowledge and information, and S4 is GPS. So this GPS is going to take you to a ride of how do and why do I form the group. Okay. So let's start. I mean, the moment I'm the individual person, if I see myself as an individual person, at times I tend to form a group because I feel very insecure by myself.
Okay.
Yeah. The moment, even if, see, I'm walking on a road and it's a very, very shady and a very like dark zone there. Even if I don't know a person who's just walking in front of me, I start walking fast and try to be with this person, thinking that yes, better if I be with this person, with someone, because I get a sense of insecurity when I'm alone. So many times it has been observed that the people tend to form the group because they feel insecure. So that's one valid reason for formation of the group, right? That gives a sense of security, that gives the sense of that yes, people are there with them. Now the status, as I said, बहुत बार हम किसी prestigious organization के, councils के, bodies के मेंबर्स बनना पसंद करते हैं, क्योंकि इससे हमारी स्टेटस, हमारी इंडिविजुअल स्टेटस भी बढ़ जाती है. तो ये देखा जाता है कि जब हम ग्रुप्स की बात करते हैं तो स्टेटस बहुत एक इम्पॉर्टेंट डिटर्मिनेंट होता है. दैट पीपल रियली लुक फॉर प्रेस्टिजियस ग्रुप्स where they can get themselves associated, be part of it, so that the growth of there would be dependent on the growth, because it's already a good and a prestigious group. Let's talk about the self-esteem. We had been talking about the self-esteem in great detail in chapter 2 as well. My sense of self-worth, obviously if I'm appreciated for my work, if I'm part of a particular group where there's very nice collaboration happening, people are very, very compassionate, happy, helping to each other, it always enhances my self-esteem, and in turn my self-worth is being heightened up, and that gives me a boost and a kick to do more and more things in great. Let's talk about the satisfaction of one's psychological needs. तन्वी एक हमारे एरिया में फील्ड में Abraham Maslow है.
Okay.
He talks about a pyramid, right? And this pyramid says, and believe me, any person who is doing an MBA degree or a BBA degree or a bank, anywhere, I mean, everybody reads about Abraham Maslow's need hierarchy.
Okay.
And what is that? The lowest order need is talking about the physiological need. It talks about the security needs. It talks about the sense of belongingness needs. Okay. Then comes my self-esteem needs, and the last is the self-actualization need. So pyramid का relevance ये है कि maximum लोग जो हैं हमारे bottom line में, pyramid में last bottom line से जैसे जैसे मतलब maximum population जो है वो physiological needs, security इन सब में entangled रहती है. बहुत कम जो लोग हैं वो ऊपर self-actualization तक जाते हैं. तो जब हम ग्रुप का फॉर्मेशन करते हैं तो मेरी बहुत सारी साइकोलॉजिकल नीड्स फुलफिल हो जाती हैं. मेरे जो एस्पिरेशंस हैं, मेरी जो नीड्स हैं, वांट्स हैं, विशेस हैं, slowly and gradually it tends to get satisfied because of the part of the particular group, right? Obviously, एक से भले दो. So when I'm searching a particular information and my teacher gives me a certain project, then she said, okay, you're supposed to do it all alone. I mean, it might be very mounting on me. But the moment she says, oh, 4 people would work on this, 2 people would work on this, 5 people would work on this particular information, wow, it's such a beautiful experience, because when we are part of a particular group, information turns out to be very natural, because you might be very good in a certain area, you might be working in, you might be very good in making PPTs, the other person might be very good in doing a research, the other person might be very, very good in oratory skills. So that becomes the wonderful group where collaborative effort makes a difference, and we can really achieve and gain lots and lots of information from each other. And that's one reason it has been found that most of the people, they turn out to be looking for the group which can really help them gain and boost their information on that matter. So I think we had just talked about the differences about the groups, teams, crowds, from being more passive to being more aggressive and impulsive, collection by chance, defining the group, and we have just covered beautiful that why do people join group.
Absolutely. Ma'am, I have a question here.
Yes.
So people join groups. You gave us reasons. Earlier, before COVID we talk about, there were real life clubs, social clubs, or people used to meet. But since COVID, things have been online, and the groups are becoming online, as in virtual groups are there.
Yeah.
So is there any difference between these two? The virtual groups, do they help a little lesser than the real groups?
Very valid question and very relevant, in fact. Reason being, when we talk about the virtual group or a group which is physically there, it doesn't make much difference as long as all my needs are being satisfied.
Okay.
Yeah, at times, in fact, at times these groups really help me to gain more information, because at times I cannot travel too much. For example, let me give me an example. If individual X is being detected by certain maybe a problem, and obviously this person is very, very anxious, right? So first thing is the person would start Googling to get more and more information. Next step would be searching how many people actually suffer from this kind of a problem. Third step would be, do we have some kind of a help that is being generated by people who are associated with this kind of a problem? And that third stage is the culmination stage, where they would be looking forward to be the part of that particular set of people who are either working for that cause, who are sailing in the same boat in terms of their experiences, in terms of their maybe the agonies and their anxieties. Then they start sharing their stories about their successes, or maybe how did they come out of that problem, and that becomes a motivating factor for that matter. So in those sets of anxieties, obviously when you are really not that great in terms of health wise, you are not in the position to travel much. So in that case, even the virtual groups are fair enough, good enough, because as we said, the moment we decided and we described the definition of a group, it elaborated everything, because it has a purpose. It is, I mean, the actions are very, very interdependent, and my purpose of my joining that particular group is being satisfied.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's because I know, as I said, the topic itself is so beautiful and it's so relevant, because even if I don't have a background of psychology, leave aside, this is everywhere.
Absolutely. This is so engaging.
Yeah. Let's start talking about group formation. How does it form? Yeah. So Tanvi, we have been meeting very often now because of these live sessions.
Yes.
Initially we didn't know each other. First thing is my proximity. Proximity is my closeness. Obviously, you become friends because you tend to meet with them very often.
Right.
Right? You happen to be great friends with your neighborhood people. I give example to my students of their school. Most, I mean, in your, we are not talking about the contact list, we are talking about the friends. So your friends would be mostly because you are part of a particular school or a college or an area or a residence, because it gives me an opportunity to meet them on a daily basis.
True.
Yeah. कुछ स्टेट्स एंड सिटीज़ के लिए हो सकता है कि हम कहें कि ओ हमें टाइम ही नहीं मिलता कि हमें नेबरहुड में कौन रह रहा है, दैट कुड बी पॉसिबल, बट आप चलते चलते या कभी एक्सीडेंटली भी मिल जाते हो, बट बिकॉज यू आर मीटिंग, that meeting itself becomes a first platform that helps you to form that particular group, right? हम जब interaction करते हैं classroom में तो बच्चे मैम we look for the people who are like me, so how do I come to know that he or she is like me? Till the time we're not meeting. So the first and the foremost is the proximity, because that repeated interactions gives me an opportunity to know that yes, he or she is like me, right? Then only the second thing that comes is the similarity. Now, psychologist ने तन्वी एक बहुत अच्छी चीज़ कही है कि हम क्यों ढूंढते हैं कि similar लोग हमारे साथ जुड़े. दो चीज़ें बहुत important हैं. Similarity से हमें हमारे actions की validation मिलती है और reinforcement मिलता है. Let me clarify this. So if I have a certain thought process of that particular group and I say that we should be doing it like this, right? And the other person also says that yes, he or she, your idea is great, yeah? So I'm getting a reinforcement that yes, my thought process was really very, very good and I'm getting a validation that yes, it's logical, it should be approved. As a reason, because of this similarity, because of this reason itself, we always look forward to have people like what you are. That becomes similarity, right? Next, and the very, very important that leads to the group formation is the common motives and goals. Now, what are these common? Why? I mean, they are all one step ahead to each other. Why do I look for the common motives and the goals? Now, what could be my common motive? I have as an individual lots and lots of ideas. मैं ये भी कर लूँ, वो भी कर लूँ. I really want to teach lot of slum children, right? Because I have a very, very compassionate heart and I really want to go beyond and invest my time into helping them reach to or raise their level of education. But do you think that it would be really possible for an individual alone to engage into this kind of a business?
Yeah.
Obviously not. So, for these kinds of causes, whether it could be environment, whether it could be education, whether it could be health, it could be anything for that matter, what you're dreaming, what your passion is, it can be achieved when like-minded people collaborate with each other, engage into the similar kinds of thought process and start doing that activity for the common cause. So, let's give me a quick briefing that what are the factors that leads to the facilitation of the group formation. Initially we had covered why do I join group, but now we are talking about what are the factors that had actually helped you to form the group. The first and most important, as I said, when you prepare a wonderful dish, the most important ingredient is the salt, right? कम और ज़्यादा होने से obviously the entire dish is going to be spoiled or it could be great. Similarly, when we talk about the factors, these three factors, and very, very important is the proximity. So, till the time you're not being close, you're not getting a chance to meet a person, you cannot look for similarity, you cannot look for that yes, so and so people is also working for the similar cause like me. So, that's how when we talk about the group formation, these three ingredients are very, very important to make that particular group to form, right? बनते कैसे हैं? Stages क्या हैं?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if you see this beautiful slide, it was given by Tuckman.
Okay.
और हम एक बहुत अच्छा example देते हैं. If you just quickly scan through this, first is my forming, then comes is storming, norming, performing and adjourning. Lot of highlighters. So let's take an example, which we generally, because I teach in school, so I generally relate my examples to the school students, right? And very close to the heart for the class 12 students, either getting a farewell or if they are in 11th, giving the farewell, right? So if they are supposed to give a, so I mean, they had actually hosted a farewell, what happened, so they can always visualize that how it actually happened. Now how the first stage of forming happened, there was so much of uncertainty. कैसे होगा, कब होगा, कौन सी डेट पे होगा, कौन कौन आएंगे, कैसे इनवाइट होगा, कैसे हम ग्रुप्स में डिवाइड करेंगे. सो द फर्स्ट एंड द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग as a first stage, just remember one thing, this is just not a hard and fast thing. They can overlap with each other, all these stages they can overlap with each other, they can go henceforth and backwards and forthwards, but more or less it has been observed that groups generally passes through these stages. Now let's talk about the forming stage. As I said, there's too much of apprehension, there's too much of excitement also कि करना तो है, कैसे करेंगे. So two key terms which as a psychology teacher as well, I say that remember these two key terms which is so important for forming, because you are super excited to host the farewell, but you are also apprehensive whether you will be able to do it as great as it had been done in the previous histories, because you are well aware that what kind of a standard generally is being hosted. Next comes is your storming stage. आंधी तूफान की तरह. अब ये आंधी तूफान किसका हो रहा है? आपस में हो रहा है. मैम आप इसको रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी मत दो, ये तो फाइनेंसेस बिल्कुल हैंडल नहीं कर सकता, ये कॉस्ट्यूम का तो बैंड बजा देगा. इस तरीके की वो बैटम जनरली आते हैं. सो देयर इज लॉट्स एंड लॉट्स ऑफ इंट्रा ग्रुप कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. ओके, सो दे आर obviously slowly and gradually you are making some views similar, you try to collaborate, because आप कितने दिन तक लड़ लोगे, है ना, कि इसको ये मत दो वो मत दो. तो धीरे धीरे क्या होता है, जो स्टॉर्मिंग स्टेज थी वो नॉर्म्स में कन्वर्ट होनी शुरू हो जाती है. फिर कहेंगे ओ प्लीज सेटल डाउन, 20,000 तक का इसको सैंक्शन दे दो, अबव 20,000 दिस पर्सन is not going to handle, these two people are going to handle. Okay. So you come to some kind of a compromises because you want that event to happen on a certain date, and when you want that to happen it has to work in a certain way. Okay. So you start deciding, you start disseminating information, you lay out certain norms to it, and then you eventually start working on those norms, and then it follows. So let me give you a key terms for the storming stage. The conflict among the members, how the target of the group is to be achieved, who is to control the group, how the resources is to be handled, who is going to perform what kind of a task, and also some sort of hierarchy. That's very very important. As I said, जब हम स्टॉर्मिंग स्टेज में होते हैं, इंट्रा ग्रुप कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इतना हाई हो जाता है, तो आप धीरे धीरे करके वो हायरार्कीज को फ्लो डाउन कर देते हो. आप चाहते हो कि वो चीज़ों को अचीव जितना जल्दी हम कर सके, तब हम इस नॉर्मिंग स्टेज में घुस जाते हैं. एंड दैट सेज द ग्रुप मेंबर्स ऑफ दिस ग्रुप develop certain kinds of norms which help them to function what they had actually decided. This leads to development of a certain positive identity. So you start bifurcating, this would be a costume group, this would be a headgear group, this would be a finance group, this would be a maybe a stage allocation group, this would be an invite group. So that's how the entire bifurcation and the hierarchy start going it, right? And then because now you are clear what you're supposed to do, or beyond 20,000 you cannot handle, so you know your limits, you work according to that set limits. Now you're performing the way it was designated to you. That becomes the performing stage. Okay. Last stage, sometimes you end up there only, sometimes you say thank you, it was a great group, etc., etc. So that becomes a very formal way of adjoining the group. So you leave the group because you have achieved the purpose of hosting a farewell to the students, and once you are done, you are over with that particular group. At times the performing in the adjoining stage can happen at that point of time. As I said in the initial beginning itself, though just for the heck of our understanding, we have bifurcated from forming, storming, norming, performing and adjoining, but we can have forming and storming together as well. We can have storming and norming also as well in one go. So we keep on overlapping with these kinds of stages. So this was given by Tuckman, and it really helps us to understand the whole process of our group formation.
Okay.
So,
Let's go further.
yes. So now we'll try to understand the structure.
Okay.
Yeah, there are certain elements. Enjoy this slide. It says roles, norms, status and cohesiveness. As I said, cohesiveness is something which is very, very important key word that comes in this chapter. Let's start talking about the roles. You are a part of a family. When you enter into a sister's role, you behave differently. When you go to
A
friend's place, you being the same, behave differently, right? If you are a daughter, your role would be entirely different.
Yes.
So, as same individual in a particular group, whether being stated clearly, understood, we tend to perform the different set of roles within that group. So, when we talk about the structuring of the group, the moment I see in what capacity this individual is functioning, I try to understand the role that is being done by that individual in that particular group. So, that is very, very important to understand why and what is the relevance of a role in that group. Let us understand the norms. As I said, the expected standards of behavior, the beliefs established, agreed upon, sometimes they are enforced by the group members, they may be considered as the group's unspoken rules. Why it's unspoken? Many times you cannot put it in black and white as a rule, but because you are part of that group, you are expected to behave in a certain fashion, and that becomes the unspoken rule and that becomes the norms. बहुत एक valid सा example generally हम देखते हैं कि हम किसी भी एक religious institution में जाते हैं, तो whichever background you generally come from, you generally just try to follow the way most of the people are doing it there, because at that point of time there is no point of questioning, because everybody is doing that, you think that yes, it must be right, that is the reason people are doing it in a certain manner. So, norms turns out to be as the unspoken rules, right? Status, very, very important. Sometimes status is always a relative, and I make my students understand the word relative means I enjoy a particular status only and only when I am able to make a distinction with the other person, right? So, when I say I am so and so in the particular group with certain designation, I need to understand, does that designation also has some relevance? So, there can be an institution where by default a particular status comes by a virtue of seniority. Now, whosoever, irrespective whether they are capable, whether they are not capable, whether they have certain biases, prejudices or certain kind of an attitude system, because there is a way of that particular group to handle, that means whosoever is the senior most will become the leader. So, that is something which is ascribed upon. You are not earning that, it is coming by the virtue of seniority. But at times it is achieved. So, there might be certain organizations and institutions where they would say that, okay, please, if you want to become a leader of a certain setup, earn that. So, you are achieving because of your excellence, because of your capability, because you could earn that not because you are being senior, but because of your capability. So, the status could be either earned or ascribed. So, ascribed would be your seniority and achieved would be your because of the capacity and capability. The fourth most important element for the group structuring is the cohesiveness. It is the togetherness, binding, mutual attraction. So, very, very important, we. How do I say we? We only happens when everyone in joint fashion they says we are all the one, we are together, we are mutual with each other. So, we always have the we feeling. So, dear students, let me with the paucity of time, let me just make you clarify and understand this beautiful concept, and we'll wind up this particular topic. It says cohesiveness means always the we feeling. The moment I have the we feeling, I'll strive very hard to make this group function, making it reach to the highest limits. At times, this we feeling can be dangerous because you are so liable, loyal to that particular group that you generally are not able to take if somebody else is giving a different kind of an opinion. History has proven that many times, because everybody was so cohesive, I mean, it's very, very virtuous to have the cohesive group, but at times if this cohesivity is non-flexible, if it is not allowing people to give their ideas and opinions, it can be dangerous and it can lead to the group polarization. So dear children, hope you enjoyed the entire session, because as we said, Tanvi, we missed out on so many things. Probably we'll do another session and take this beautiful ideas, topics in the next other classes. I really didn't want you to miss out on the cohesiveness and the beautiful ideas that how do I form the group, what are the structure, what are the elements, and ultimately talking about the group cohesiveness. Yeah, because remember, we are all parts of group. Sometimes you are part of formal group, informal group, primary group and secondary group. Yeah?
Absolutely. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here. The concept you have clarified to our audience and even to me was so important that in our daily lives we go through all these groups, but we don't realize its importance.
Yes.
So here we are discussing the topic nature, formation and types of groups, and ma'am explained a lot of things. Well, we have a couple of minutes and I have a couple of questions too for ma'am. So
okay.
Ma'am, the group structure when you were talking about, the first point was roles. So when we say roles, and you gave certain examples, then in certain relationships the roles are different.
Yes.
So can we generally use the term shades, that the person has
different shades.
Yeah, shades with this person, shades with that person. So can we say that those shades can be negative with some relationships and could be positive in certain relationships?
Definitely yes, because as we said, shades could be all colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be positive, it could be negative, but when we try to relate your shade concept with the group, obviously the shades in the group could be, I mean, I might be very, very great as a daughter, but might not be very great as a wife. Maybe not, or maybe very compassionate as a mother, but not as great as a
mother-in-law.
So, I mean, I do wear a lot of shades here and do enter into a lot of roles here. But ultimately, yes, when we talk about the groups, the roles are amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And also, ma'am, when we talk about teams or audience, is there any fixed number where we can say that, okay, now we are 20 people, now that is a team? Is there any fixed number, any minimum number?
Not actually, Tanvi, because it will be all dependent on the kind and the purpose of the group we are meeting with.
Okay.
So, if I am making a team for a cricket match, the number would be different as compared to a football match and a hockey match, or maybe organization. So obviously, when I am making a team of 10 odd people to work on a certain project, and that is a requirement because you cannot have a team of 30 people to work on the similar kind of a project or the same project for that matter, because of too much of information coming and making it like a spoiled food. So here when we are talking about the number is all depending on the purpose and the kind of group I am associated with.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am, once again. And now we've got the idea that how is a team, an audience, a crowd and a group, these four are different, and of course mob as well. So we understood the characteristics of a group, we understood what are groups, what are the types of groups, what are the stages of group formation, and we also understood the structure of groups. So thank you so much, ma'am, for all the clarity you gave. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanvi, for giving me this pleasure and connecting to my audience, which I always look forward, because that's a platform where you can actually reach out to so many students. When we are in the classroom, yes, we are the bosses there, but yes, when we are on this platform, we are able to reach out to so many students because, I mean, definitely what I experience while teaching here, obviously it should be reaching out to the people to the maximum.
Yes, believe me, ma'am, the pleasure is all ours, and we'll be looking forward to your next session very soon.
Thank you so much, Tanvi. Thank you so much.
So thank you to all our viewers for watching this session, and just like me, I'm sure that you also would be looking forward to our next session with ma'am. And this was all about the groups we discussed. If in case you have not seen this particular program, then please watch it again on NCRT Official. It's going to be there, and you can watch it anytime you want, anywhere you want. All you need is an internet connection. So we're wrapping up this particular program, and we're done with our today's session. But on Monday, we'll come back again with more subjects, more topics, and of course, you are going to raise your questions too. So please keep on watching PMeVIDYA channels. My name is Tanvi Khurana, and I'm taking a leave of you. Thank you once again. Take care. Namaskar.